Here you go, John.
Yes?
That is exciting stuff.
Oh, thanks.
That,
All right. Okay. Commissioner, I've got it.
Mike probably probably really doesn't want this. I'll give it to Mike Worthen.
I like these.
No, it is a good reference.
I mean, you know, you gotta have a minute, but. So you're rolling whenever you're ready.
Yeah.
I guess I should have.
Okay. Mike Edwards may not be here today.
Okay. Oh.
He'd asked him
Stuff from the week before, in all honesty.
Nice.
Put it here thinking that we'll go to lunch and do whatever, then look back and
Doesn't work out.
didn't. Add it to my stack.
This hasn't changed any, has it?
Which?
Of this, 'cause I actually burned one off this morning because I wanted to make some notes on
No,
here.
it didn't.
Okay, so this will be good.
No, we only have that one question about the Enoch thing.
Excellent.
Sword fight.
Oh.
Boys, you're on TV.
We are already? We want to lighten everybody Monday morning.
That's right. That was good. Yeah. I'm not at all biased, but I agree.
Anyway, that was really a wonderful thing.
Yeah,
Appreciate being able to sing with you.
Yeah, ditto. It turned out really well, I thought.
Everybody ready? We're rolling, John?
Yeah.
Okay. Good morning and welcome everyone to the final Iron County Commission meeting of 2019. We will not be having a meeting on the fourth Monday because it's Christmas. We're all going to celebrate and enjoy that. Our pledge will be led in the pledge this morning by Preston Nelson, and after which Bruce Anderson will give the opening prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father in heaven, we humbly bow our heads today to give thee thanks for the opportunity we have to live in such a great land. Father, we pray that we'll be able to continue having the freedoms that we have. We ask you to bless the leaders of our country, our state, and our county. Please be with them and help them make good decisions. Father, we're thankful for the moisture that we received and the opportunity we have to live here and share our love with one another and get along the way we do. Father, we're so grateful for our families and ask that you would watch over and protect them. We say these in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. Thank you both very much, and we hope that you all have a good Christmas and Happy New Year, and that your families are well. And we do wish those who may be struggling in our county with whatever it might be, that we wish them that they will be comforted and blessed. All right. We don't have minutes yet, I guess.
They're still coming,
okay.
yeah.
Very good. We will go into our departmental reports. First of all, we have Brianna Garrett from Victims Advocate. Thanks for coming. We appreciate you coming for your first time to report.
Thanks for having me.
You bet.
So our program started about a year ago. We received a VOCA grant. So in our first grant cycle, we were working for 8 months. And I've kind of broken our stats up between the 8 months from our last grant cycle and then the 5 months that we've had for this grant cycle, just to show the progress that we made. So last grant cycle, we were able to serve 376 victims. 73 of those were domestic violence victims, 57 had some sort of vehicular victimization, 39 were burglary victims, 59 were physical assault, 29 were sexual assault, and then 21 were theft victims. So when we started this new grant cycle, we were able to hire on another advocate, Wendy Jessen, and she mostly works with people who have property crimes. She does a lot of the victim services for Enoch and Parowan, but she mostly does theft services for Cedar City PD. So this year, since July 1st, so in the last 5-ish months, we've served 571 victims, and 487 of those are new. So we've already increased in just 5 months from what we did over 8 months. And all of the new victimizations, we had 104 for domestic violence, 39 were vehicular victimizations, 67 were burglary, 62 were physical assault, 21 were sexual assault, and then we had 107 thefts victims that we were able to work with. So that's a huge increase, just adding this other advocate, going from 21 in 8 months to 107 in 5.
We appreciate so much all you do, but those are horrible stats.
Yeah, it's sad to see how
Thank
many
you.
we have, but
Yeah,
it's great that we have this program to be able to help them.
absolutely.
We had the privilege of being members of the Critical Incident Task Force team, and were able to help on the officer-involved shooting that we had last month. From this, we were able to help 3 families that last year wouldn't have been able to have any services if something like this had happened. They would have had some minute services, but not the extent that we're able to do. We're able to follow along with them and help them in the months and even years following this incident and support them through the whole process. We're also able to support our officers and their families in this. Wendy has attended probably over 200 hours of training just in the 4 months since she's been hired. And that's all paid for by VOCA. She just went to a national training, so we're gonna have her come back and teach us what she learned there. We're also able to fund some training for officers to help them work on, just have more skills when they approach victims, and how to do a victim-centered services. And we also offered to respond to the scene with our officers, so that's helped a lot of victims to be able to access immediate services and learn about a protective order, and get in with us to do a protective order immediately if they need it, or get them a hotel, something like that. So we've had a lot of sadness, but also we've been able to help with a lot of things for different people. So we did just get an audit also. And just so y'all are aware, we're good for the next 2 years, but after that, VOCA funding is decreasing, so they won't have to cut any positions they're expecting, but funding will decrease, so we might have to look at picking things up somewhere else or reducing different things that we pay for. So.
Okay, thanks very much.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions?
I just really appreciate it. On the law enforcement end, as my minimal involvement in law enforcement these days, just for an example, I had a kind of a particularly difficult situation at the Children's Justice Center as a law enforcement officer the other day with a family, basically just needing some resources that I didn't know the answer. My DCFS partner didn't know the answer. I took a break, walked out in the kitchen for a minute, and Liz and Wendy were standing in the kitchen, and I'm like, so we turned them over to Liz and Wendy and got immediate services and got the questions answered. I went out to get their numbers to call them anyway, and there they stood. So,
Yeah,
I mean, it's been a huge burden off of officers on the street because everything is so fluid sometimes that you don't have time to you don't have time for the victims. Unfortunately, if you're leaving for another call or things fall through the cracks, I feel like this program has hugely filled in those gaps that we've lacked for the last 200 years. So
Yeah.
thank you. It's been awesome to watch firsthand.
Yeah, we've had Wendy start doing a lot of the child abuse cases, so she works really closely with the CJC just to help give them that follow-along support as well as the information on what's going on with their case from the law enforcement side. So we like to make ourselves available just in case if there's somebody who, maybe they just are in poverty or they need some sort of resource and maybe they're not a victim of a crime. We try and give as many resources as we can to our officers to pass on to people because we just want to help people. We have the information, so we might as well share it, right?
It's been awesome. just
Good, I'm glad to hear.
to watch from with 1 foot in and 1 foot out. It's been awesome to watch from both sides. It's cool. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Great. Thanks so much for the wonderful work you do. I failed to excuse Commissioner Cousins. We actually thought he would be here. He and his wife have been on a trip to China. Commissioner Blake said maybe he got shanghaied. I don't know, but anyway. That's politically correct, isn't it? Anyway, he may show up here anytime. We don't know what happened, but we haven't heard from him. Okay, we have Reed, our county planner / special services director, representing building and zoning and planning. Thank you.
Thank you, Reed. Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Good to be with you. I'll make a brief report here and try to just give you an overview of what's happened in the last several months. This is the building permit summary for the year to date. If you look on the top left column, 2018 versus 2019 in total building permits, down at the bottom, you'll see that there were 413 permits issued in 2018 and 399 to date in 2019. That is the end of November. So we're down just a teeny little bit. It's not a lot, but if you look at the valuation, you'll see that in 2018 it was 35 million. And 35 million, and this year it's 112 million. So it's substantially up, and that's primarily due to the solar farm development out at the First Solar, the Cove Mountain project that's under construction currently. And so let me just report on that briefly. They are, don't know if you've been out in the area there recently, but they are under construction, have driven most of their piles, and have started assembling some of the racking. The inverters are actually sitting in Enterprise because they can't get them onto the site because of the mud. Oh. So they're waiting for that to dry out just a little bit so that they can get those, but they poured the pads for them, and they've graded for all of the fencing, and so it's well underway. A lot of work has been done, a lot of materials have been moved onto the site, and so they're well along in their process, and they're doing both phase 1 and phase 2, Cove Mountain 1 and 2, both at the same time. So they anticipate to be through with that mid next year, about middle of next 2020.
You know the approximate cost of that project?
It's around 250 million between the two phases, I believe. I don't know offhand exactly the amount, but it kind of changes quickly,
sure.
You know. But that's a rough.
That's
guess.
a lot of money either way.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of and when you see them, especially this one will be the biggest one that we have combined between the two phases that are being constructed at the same time of any of the projects. So. It's fairly large, and it covers a lot of country, and it's a lot of solar panels and a lot of racking and a lot of pylons that they're driving, and it's quite interesting to watch and see it go up.
Yeah, amazing. So what's the total megawatt of the two?
It's I think it's 147 megawatt. So it's a pretty good sized plant. So you can see there the combination, the ones issued in unincorporated area only is the top row. And then the second one is the combined Parowan, Bryan Head, Paraguna, and Canaryville, and without the unincorporated area. So those are what's combined in the bottom row for the total permits issued. You can see that most of the other areas are up slightly other than single-family dwellings. So single-family dwellings are down from 188 to 157. That's really what comprises the majority of the reduction over this year over last year is single-family dwellings. And one of the things I think we're starting to see in the county, and one of the things that you'll notice when you drive around some of the subdivisions that have been kind of built out now that were our nicer subdivisions in the unincorporated area, like a Monarch Meadows and Parks at Deer Hollow and Sunrise and Rancho Bonita. So a lot of those subdivisions that were done in 2005, 2006, and 7 took kind of a hiatus during the lull, and now most of those lots have actually been sold out. All of the lots have been sold, and now most of the lots have actually been built on. And so there are a lot less lot inventory available in the unincorporated area right now, and we're starting to see some people coming in with interest and talking about subsequent phases to those subdivisions. A lot of those subdivisions, especially Parks at Deer Hollow, Peak View, and let's see, those are the two primary ones that had master planned communities that could then have subsequent phases, and we've seen a two subsequent phases to Peak View with just small, 10 and 12 lots each phase, instead of doing like they did in the mid-2000s by, doing a couple hundred lots at a time. And they're doing it much slower now because of infrastructure costs and the amount of time it takes to sell those lots. So they're still selling some and they're still moving, but we just keep waiting for whenever things are going to turn again, and we never know when that's going to be. Excuse me, but we're seeing a lot more inventory in the cities for available lots than we are in the unincorporated area. And I would just say that in some respects, that's what our general plan has called for. That's what we've tried to accomplish over time, is to have a lot of that higher density small lot development occurring more in the incorporated areas and causing those to annex and subdivide in the incorporated areas. And that's especially occurred in Cedar City. And of course, we don't contract with Cedar City. They do their own inspection. So their permits don't reflect here, and they're actually up slightly. This year over previous year. So I think that says that we're kind of on the right track in terms of what we wanted to accomplish and what our general plan accomplishes. We did have an interesting discussion in Planning Commission the other night regarding affordable housing and moderate income housing plan that the Commission approved at the previous meeting, and how we accomplish that and what really the goals of the county are in terms of their responsibility for providing that element of affordable housing and development in general, and what properties are available for development and what kind of densities we really ought to be looking at, and availability of water and sewer. And as you're aware, we're in the process of doing a impact fee study analysis and capital facilities plan for the sewer impact fees. And we have received proposals. The deadline for that we extended until the 20th of December because of holidays and other things. We got several comments back that they would like a little more time to submit, and so we did extend time for them to submit RFPs on the sewer impact fee study. So we will be interviewing from that, and I'll send you an email, but you're on the selection committee, as you're aware, and we will be looking and trying to do interviews on the second meeting, or the first meeting in January 13th, I believe. And that afternoon, hopefully you can block some time and we'll do interviews for those proposals for the impact fee study. So anyway, any questions on the building permit itself and what's been going on in valuations or anything else?
I don't. This is a great spreadsheet, though.
There's a lot of information there, and it's available to anybody in the public if they'd like. I can email it to them or give them a copy. I brought a couple extra copies here if someone would like a copy. Let me just briefly hit on a couple of other things really quick. We are moving along with the Vision 2050 planning and visioning process. Many of you have taken a survey on that and hope that you were able to participate in that survey. The information now is being compiled by the Kempsey Gardner Institute, who helped do the study for the process, and we'll get that information and then try to take next steps on that. And so that's something that we appreciate what Chris McCormick and the Chamber is doing, and our participation with that in Cedar City and Enoch City and the unincorporated area are the primary focus areas for that visioning process.
Is it too late to do the survey?
Survey, yes. It's closed. But
okay.
If you really have an inclination for a survey, I do have another opportunity here. If you haven't filled one of these out, and I have several others for those who may not have filled one out yet, which I'll bet is you, and Bill. I'd love to have people fill these out. This is a process that we're kind of in the middle of right now. It's called ASAP, which stands for Area Sector Analysis Process. It's a community development, economic development process that we are engaged with. We're in a third month. We meet Wednesday afternoon with the group, again, that's kind of spearheading this. If you go on the back of this card, you can see the access to the survey website, and then you put in your password. Each card has a different password, so you're only able to fill this out once. And I had brought cards over here to the courthouse previously and spread them around in a number of the offices and asked people to fill them out so that we could get a good representation from county and unincorporated area. But this is a project that it is really interesting in terms of trying to focus the right kind of economic development. This survey does an analysis of what the community believes the priorities are for economic development, what kind of businesses are important to us, what kind of sectors of industry we're most interested in, how we prioritize. And when you do the survey, it's kind of a spectrum of you're in favor of this or you're in favor of this, and it ranks between the two. So are job creation more important than clean air? Is clean water more important than wages? And you kind of run in the analysis between the two, and then all this information is gathered, and then it helps to then take this information to go out into the industry and target those industries that match up well. It's kind of like eHarmony. You find a match. Your community identifies what you are interested in and what your priorities are, and then you take companies who also do well in those environments and say that's their priority, and you match those up. And you try to find opportunities for development in your area that with those types of companies that match well for you. And so this is an organization, you see all of the partners there. Utah State University is who we're working with directly, but the University of Nevada is actually the one that processes the surveys and helps do some of the analysis, and Western Rural Development Center is the one that does the matchups. And so it's quite a big partnership, and we've been involved in that now for 3 months trying to get information, and so that's a project that we've been involved with. I just wanted to let you know, have an opportunity to participate in that. And after you do the survey, if you have specific questions, please let me know if there's anything I can provide on that. I also just quickly report that we're just about through with the break room remodel in the planning office, the building department office there, and that'll be a nice addition. That'll allow other people in the building as well to use that, and then changed our filing system and the way that we have access to files. And please come and take a look at that. We just got the carpet in there. We were the last one in the building to get our carpet and the flooring in that break room, and now touch-up paint, and we're just about through with that remodel project that we've kind of been living in for the last couple of months. It'll be nice to have that done. We hope that everyone in the Justice Center is appreciating the new carpet. It's clean, it's nice. I think they've done a nice job, and I think we're through with that, and we are just finishing touch-up paint. So if there's anybody else that still has touch-up paint needed as a result of the carpeting project and moving furniture around, please let us know, and we can get that taken care of. I appreciate Lester has done a great job in overseeing both the remodel and the carpeting, and we're glad to kind of start getting things back together. I also report briefly that we had a deadline on Thursday for the bonding for the Sunset subdivision, and we had State Bank of Southern Utah, who was the low bidder for interest rates. They gave us a couple of options, and we'll have to sit down with the commission and getting input from the folks out there at Sunset Subdivision to determine whether to go with the 15-year or the 20-year offer. State Bank offered right around 2.7% on a 15-year bond and around 3% on a 20-year bond. And so you'll recall that they submitted originally an application for 20 years when they did the assessment area, but we solicited when we did all of the advertising and the creation to have it be 15 or more years. And so we have the option with a little lower interest rate to go for a 15-year. When we put that out originally, we estimated the interest rate over a year ago to be 5.5%. We said between 5 and 6%, and now it's come in at 2.7 for 15 years. We may, want to say that's really the best option and to go with that. Our estimate also, or the final construction numbers came in lower than what the estimate was, and so their assessment amount was $17,000 versus $20,000 as original estimate. So with a lower interest rate, we may be better off going with the 15-year, and that's something that we'll have to. When Matt Dugdale from Stifel gets their analysis done on the bid, and they'll send those out, and we can have a discussion about that. I also mentioned one last thing really quick.
I'm just saying that's wonderful. Sometimes it's good when things don't come together quite as early.
It takes a little longer to get something.
If you get a higher interest rate, that's terrible. But if you get a lower one,
yeah, it's okay. The last thing I'll mention really quick is that we did. You'll recall a couple of months ago, I was in getting a resolution to submit an application for a grant for the transportation from UDOT grant to do coordinated planning on the unincorporated areas and in conjunction with the cities and towns, and trying to line up roads and standards, design issues on widths and types of development for roads. And we were awarded the grant from UDOT. We were one of few that were granted. We were combined actually with Enoch City, and so we will be working. They submitted an application for a similar master planning project, so we will be coordinating with them, and then we'll be coming back to you for information as we go through that process, because we will have to issue a contract for a consultant. We'll have to have a consultant on. We got $75,000. We actually asked for 50, but between Enoch and our request, they gave us $75,000 to do both projects, and so we're trying to work that out right now, and we'll be back for a contract award on. We'll be putting out an RFP for a consultant to do that work as well. So, are there any questions? I'll stop there. Take enough time.
No.
Have any?
Thank you.
Thanks very much for that good report. Okay, Steve, our engineer. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Commissioners, it's a pleasure to be here, and I want to start by complimenting Reed and what a fine job he's doing in our building. We office next to each other, and he has an idea what I'm doing, and I have an idea what he's doing, and appreciate him very much. I want to talk about the highlighted portions. You've seen this list before. There's some things that have been taken off, some things that have been added, but let me talk about the yellow parts. Our budget's on track. You're aware that we're building 2 bridges in Parowan Canyon, first left-hand and second left-hand, with $700,000 we received from the Forest Service. As of Thursday, they poured the last concrete pour, so all of the footings, wing walls, abutments on both bridges are complete. They're doing some backfilling now and some riprap work and tearing down the old structures. The tentative plan is to set the bridge on first left-hand on December 17th, which is a week from tomorrow, and the bridge on second left-hand on the 18th, which is a week from the day after tomorrow.
While you're there, Steve, did we ever determine if the old bridge at second left-hand was reusable? put up in the campground.
As they took it apart, it turned out not to be. The deck was not, and Carter's wanted the beams. I thought we'd get the beams, but they wanted them, so that's out.
Okay.
But the metal, half metal pipe at First Left Hand, they're giving us that one. They're taking it out today, in fact. We're hauling it away. It's so heavy we can't lift it with an excavator, so Curtis is there seeing we have to get 2 excavators and put it upside down on a trailer because it's 11 feet wide. But we're, for right now, just going to drop it in the pit at the 4th North, the racetrack pit.
That would work up at the Vermilion Castle Camp.
Yes, it would.
Get that opportunity to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, good deal.
You also know we're doing the EWP at Paraguna. The grant was basically for $1 million. We got an exceptional bid on that for about half that price. Curtis is hauling riprap from the landfill, both in Cedar City and Parowan, to make our match. It's a 75% Grattan, 25% local match, which you're aware of. That's coming together, I hope, by the end of this year. That project is about complete. The 2 bridges, the construction basically will be completed by the end of the year, but we'll have to wait for summer to do the paving across them. Alton Cole, nothing has happened unless you've heard something that I haven't heard.
Have not heard.
Okay. The Parowan Watershed Protection and Flood Prevention Operations money, which is another pot, not EWP money. They both come from NRCS. But you're aware that that's a big pot of money doing some watershed operations and protection for the whole Parowan Basin. We had to go from an EA to an EIS because of the size of the projects that were identified in that EA. Took it over $50 million, or excuse me, $25 million, so we have to go to an EIS. Commissioners, that's going to put us schedule-wise when they can only do certain things with prairie dogs and da-da-da-da-da. But it's going to be about 2 years before we see some construction there. We're looking at 4 basins. We'll have to pick which one we want to do first, and as we get that one going, then we can apply for additional money on the next one.
Steve, could you explain the acronyms there, EA and EIS?
An EA is an environmental assessment. It's environmental work. They have to do things with prairie dogs, archaeological, cultural clearances, paleontological, threatened and endangered plants, threatened and endangered species. The EIS is an environmental impact statement. They do the same stuff, only deeper, more of it. And when you do get federal money, you have to jump through the federal hoops and do everything they require. So that's why we have to do that. Is that sufficient, John?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. We are crushing, let a bid. Commissioner Adams signed the contract. You approved it last meeting for Gene Henry Quality Crushing out to the Quichapa site. Gene should, I hope, start this week. The contractor signed. He's ready, or we're ready to go as soon as he is. We'll start that project. And we're also looking for, item number 7, a new material source on the Bench Road from the BLM somewhere near Newcastle. They've given us 160 acres to look at. Preston and I were there the other day. We want to see what we can develop there. So hopefully that'll come together. It'll give him more material source on the Hart Road. The third page is Curtis's to-do list. I call it, this is with our excavator. He's very busy. We've got a lot to do with flood channels in 5 valleys. We're not out of the woods yet. We started in 2005 when we had that big water year, but we still have a lot to do. Do you have any questions?
Not any more than I already asked, so I guess we're
Okay.
good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, Preston, from the Road Department. Good morning.
How you doing?
Good.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Cousins just landed in Seattle.
Just landed in Seattle. Okay, Commissioner Cousins definitely will not be here. If you have another copy, you can leave it here.
He
for
said,
him.
"Good to be
Any
back
of the
on
materials
American
you have,
soil."
We'll just put that in his box. And so anyway, well, I'm glad that they're alive and they're fine. And so anyway,
Good
stuff
morning.
happens when you travel.
I'm glad to be here this morning and just go through the projects we're currently working on. We've been working on the Vandenberg Road, but the rain and snow's kind of holding us up there.
You don't have to run the water truck as much, though.
No, we need a burner or something out there right now. A big hair dryer.
Yeah.
We've been hauling cinders from the Summit Pit. We, with Cedar City, made a whole bunch of cinders over there, and we probably got about 2,000 yards, I would figure, that we've hauled. And anyway, we got that all cleaned up Friday, so we're done with that little project. And today we're actually starting on the Hart Road. Going to start grubbing it and getting ready, and then as we get this material source, that'll help us with getting some gravel on that and paving it, or chipping it, I guess. And looking ahead, in the next 3 months, we'll be crushing gravel, as Steve said, at the Vandenberg Pit, roughly 30,000 yards. We'll finish placing our gravel on 7700 West. There's a 1.5 miles there that we just have like 1,300 feet left, and then we'll be able to chip that road next year is the plan.
That will be awesome.
With that gravel, we'll also place it on another 2 miles of the Vandenberg Road, which the subgrade's built. We just need to put the gravel. We'll be able to chip that next year also.
And that'll get us clear to the Sunset subdivision and a little.
Yeah, it should get us past it a little ways.
Great.
And then hopefully in the next month, build 1 to 2 miles of subgrade on the Hart Road. When that one's all done, that's a total of 5 miles that we'd like to finish on the Hart Road. And then we'll just be bidding the chip and oils and asphalt in the next month or so. So I don't know if you have any more questions.
How's the new building coming?
It's good. They got the footings in, the walls poured, started to backfill. It's a big muddy mess there too. They're looking for some dry material. They were just wanted to see what this storm did. We got a spot that will let them dig that's close, and they'll actually help make a pond that we need to build for our runoff, and they'll finish their backfilling and hopefully in the next couple weeks start pouring the floor in it. So.
Excellent.
Great.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Landfill. Bruce, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Good. You want to leave something, Paul?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Well, good morning. Glad to be here. This first, just that grid report, that's just a snapshot of where we are today, the 8th of December, and that compares to the last 4 years. Each one of them is, the top one's 2019, then 2018, 17, and 16. And you can see the tonnages have gone up each year, roughly 5,000 tons per year. Just a quick snapshot. But if you go on to the left-hand side, it'll tell you the class 1 is household trash, and then metals, wood. Class 4 is construction and demolition trash, grease trap. The mulch is actually the stuff that we sell, the asbestos, and then riprap is stuff that we've sold and got rid of. And then there's a few hay trucks that we weigh just for our scale weights. So and
And down at the bottom of there, it shows tickets and then transactions. The tickets are always less than the transactions because sometimes there's multiple things on one ticket. So somebody could come in and drop class 1 and then pick up mulch, let's say. So, any questions?
We just keep growing.
Yeah, we're growing. Keep moving a little more, which is good.
It is.
As far as the other stuff, our budget's on track. We did go over budget on the wood grinding, but it's stuff that we get back. So we just had more wood than I had anticipated. We
Does
did.
Dan know that just so he can be able
He already did it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Yeah. And we did cedar and Parowan. We had quite a bit, and it looks good. They did a really good job, and it's probably the best mulch that we've had up to this point that I've been there. So we just finished that up. We got a little bit of cleanup still left in Parowan from that. There's a few big logs that we need to go put in the pit that they couldn't get, but we're just fighting the mud a little bit on there.
Mm-hmm.
Once it dries out, we'll finish that. I'm looking forward to the next couple of months. Our equipment work is working good right now. We've of course got the new compactor in the top pit, and it's really nice to run and nice to have. Does a great job. I've started working on the year-end permit or the year-end report for the DEQ. That's gonna have to be coming in pretty close, and we're just we got one little special project that we're helping with. Parowan City, we're hauling some metal from their place to ours. Just recycle metal, and the prisoners are actually loading the bin. All we have to do is haul it. So that's really all we got. And then just like to tell all of you Merry Christmas.
Thanks so much,
Thank
Bruce.
you.
The same to you, and appreciate the work you do out there.
You're welcome.
And your
Thank you.
crew. Okay, Dr. Blodgett, good to have you with us today. Welcome.
Here, thank you.
Best health.
Actually, Reed paid me to bring this magazine. It's got the grandma on it. So that's his daughter is our graphic designer. She does really great work for us, and so we're really happy to have her as part of our team. She does a great job. Well, as you know, I'm one of 3 sister organizations that cover 5 counties instead of just one. So we cover Beaver, Washington, Iron, Kane, and Garfield counties. Total population growing all the time, almost 250,000. We had actually into Washington County, they had more people move into Washington County, 7,000 people than are in those other 3 smaller counties in Kane, Garfield, and Beaver counties. So crazy times for us to figure out the logistics of all that. And Iron County, as you know, is growing as well, and so it's created some of the fun times that we've had. We're doing well financially as far as the support from the local counties, and we appreciate what you give to us. Generally, when you look at reports on the return for public health, just simply the money that we bring in, that we're able to leverage to bring in, gives us about $5 for every dollar you spend. So we end up with about $1.5 million coming into the county because of what you give to us. But then also there's the impact, the health impact, and the money impact that comes because of that. So depending on the program, smoking cessation, for example, returns $50 in savings. Generally, it's about $9 in savings for every dollar you spend in public health. So it's probably the best dollars you spend is for public health. They always say, Benjamin Franklin said, that the first wealth is health, right? And anything we can do to help prevent disease and help keep people healthy is well worth the investment and time. So it's a pleasure for me to be your health officer. It's a pleasure for us to be here. This relationship we have where the 5 counties come together to save on the administrative costs, I think, has really been a wonderful thing for the counties over the years that's been in place. So just wanted to kind of update you on some of the things that have been going on with us. A lot of 60% of our funding comes from federal dollars, and those continue to go down, which is no surprise, but everybody's dealing with that. Our WIC program, which is about 40% of our budget, is based on participation, and the statewide numbers are down almost 50% now. So with that coming, we'll be looking to see what we can do to realign and make sure everything continues to do well. I handed out the magazine because once a year in the magazine, we send it out to every home in the district, and once a year we put a yearly report in there, which gives kind of an idea where we're at and who's on the board and on the things that we've been up to fulfill that requirement. But also I think it's a wonderful thing for people to know what their health department is up to. We just got our 3rd Best in State award, which was really a nice thing for the graphic design and things like that. And the Local Health Officer Association just commissioned us to do an issue of the magazine that's going to go statewide to tell the story of public health. So really a nice kudos for them. But that's only a part of what we do. We run about 140 different programs out of the departments. So you probably heard there have been big stories nationwide related to public health. One is vaccine preventable diseases are on the rise, which is always sad. So measles was declared eradicated in the United States in 2001. Most cases we'd had in a year since then was about 50, mostly brought in from people from outside the United States. This year, I think at last count we're up above 2,500. About 10% of those end up in the ICU, and 3 or 4 deaths as a result of that. So, so here's a disease that we've just haven't seen, and yet it's back. And so, you know, it's problematic for us as we look forward into the future, because here's diseases that we're just supposed to monitor very rarely, and yet we're having to spend a lot of time. Particularly pertussis is widely prevalent, and the pertussis is whooping cough. So we see that a lot more than we would want to. Probably 50 or 60 cases now. The problem with whooping cough is if you get it as an adult, it's uncomfortable and you're sick for a couple of weeks, but if you get it as a baby, it's fatal, right? And they can't be vaccinated until they're 6 months old. So there's 2 reasons why we ask people to get vaccinated. One is so they don't get sick, but there's always a certain percentage that the vaccine doesn't work for. And then they pass it on, right? So if you have pertussis as an adult, it might not be a big deal, but it is for that baby that you go to see your grandchild or whatever. So that is on the horizon, that I think we're going to see more and more infectious diseases crop up, and vaccine preventable diseases that we just haven't had to deal with in recent memory because of the success of the vaccine campaigns. But the anti-vaccine movement is alive and well. One of our schools just made the top 5 in the state for unvaccinated kids in their schools. It's the charter school. So it's something that we're aware of. 3 of the top 5 are in our districts, so 2 of them down in Colorado City. So it gives you an idea of where some of that problem lies. About 7 or 8% of the kids in our district are not vaccinated now, which is, it's in that range where you don't have what we call herd immunity, which is it stops the spread of disease because enough people are vaccinated that nobody can get exposed to the disease. So something that we'll continue to monitor. You might also have seen the big trend and the big hubbub that's been going on over e-cigarettes and vaping. The latest numbers on that, something in the order of almost 2,000 there, 50 deaths, including one in Utah. And then we had another death here that I would call related to vaping, but the state didn't want to call it that. So we'll just call it here and not there, but it met all the criteria. It turns out that when you buy your vape cartridges from a drug dealer, that they might not be very reliable in what they're putting in that vape cartridge. So surprise, surprise. So so it ends up so most of the people that had problems ended up having been exposed to some pretty crazy stuff that were in these cartridges that they were using to cut to dilute it down from what they claimed it was. So they claimed it was pure THC, which, you know, I don't know why you'd want pure THC other than it's highly addictive and causes all kinds of trouble. But then when they would cut it, they would put other things in there. Lighter fluid was in some of them, just some crazy fentanyl, things like that. But then they were also using a lot of vitamin E, which seems like it should be a little more benign because we all use it for stuff, put it on your skin or take it as a pill. But it turns out when you inhale it into your lungs, it causes all kinds of trouble. So here's a lot of young people that have been told the lie that THC is not harmful and not addictive and those kind of things, and they end up in the ICU for months at a time or dying. And so look in the legislature to see a lot of activity around e-cigarettes. There's been a work group that we've been part of. You might have seen that they tried to put an emergency rule through where it restricted flavored e-cigarette products to just a few retailers in the community. But that was ruled as an overreach by the state health department, and so they'll probably come back with something like that in the session. Probably be an e-cigarette tax proposed. Right now they tax cigarettes heavily in the 70 cents a pack kind of range, and they don't tax e-cigarettes at all. So we'll see whether that goes through or not. But maybe some money will come to the health department from that. Anyway. Growth has its ups and downs, as you've noticed, and so for us, lots of extra activity. We actually have more pools in our district now, commercial pools, than the whole rest of the state combined outside of Salt Lake County. So we have on the order of 700 pools that we check on and inspect and things like that. So the addition of restaurants and all of those things, septic tanks and those kind of things. I've appreciated that here in Iron County you've had a very good policy about encouraging sewers and rather than septics, and that's paying off for the county really handsomely. So thank you for being progressive and looking into the future on that. So that's the environmental health part of what we do, is the regulatory part of what we do. We do a nursing part where we do immunizations and things like that. We have the health promotion part. Magazine's part of that, but also trying to keep people healthy. We launched this last year a brand new diabetes initiative. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 10% of people in the district are diabetic. Probably 30% are pre-diabetic. If you want to know what the future of healthcare looks like, it's bankrupt because of diabetes. And so we really want to get ahead of that. There's lots you can do to keep away from diabetes if you're aware of it, but most people aren't. And so we want to really make sure we hit diabetes hard and keep people in the loop on that. Happy to report that we will not become drug dealers in the next year, which was on the table for us. So we were slated to distribute medical marijuana. We will not be doing that, which is awesome. So we're grateful for Senator Vickers that didn't happen out. But I just want to say thank you for your support of us in public health and for continuing the great relationship that we have. Commissioner Cousins sits on our board and does a great job, and we're just privileged to be in the communities we're in and to have the kind of health ethic that we have. We're one of the lowest funded public health systems in the nation, but we're also one of the healthiest states in the nation. We always come in 4 or 5 depending on which list you look at, and I think it has a lot to do with the good people that are here and the health ethic that we have. And not very many of us smoke, which turns out to be the biggest thing you can do to hurt your health. So hopefully nobody does that here. But any questions that I can answer about what the health department is up to?
I heard something the other day that maybe the flu vaccine, there was a strain that they've discovered that it doesn't cover. Is that correct?
Yeah, so here's the problem with the flu vaccine. They decide which strains to put into the flu vaccine in February of each year, because it takes 9 months to grow it, because you grow it in eggs. So every year 200 to 300 million eggs are sacrificed to create flu vaccine. And so if they get that even a little bit off, then the flu vaccine's a little bit less effective. And it seems like there might be a strain out there that we missed this year. Even having said all of that, the data is really clear that even if they miss the strain and it isn't 100% effective, the flu is less severe for those that get the flu shot versus those that don't. So it's always a recommendation to do, and it's as good as we have, to get a flu shot, because flu remains the #1 infectious disease killer in America. 30,000 people. 2 years ago, that number was 90,000 people died from the flu. So we get all excited about car accidents. About 15,000 people a year dying in car accidents nationwide versus that 30, you know. So we ought to be a little bit more excited about the flu, but we just aren't. So, no, great question. And it's supposed to be a little bit more severe flu season year. It's the Hong Kong version, H3N2 again this year, and that is always a little bit more severe flu-wise than the H1N1, which came out about 5 years ago. Hit the circuit. It's a strange thing, flu. You don't have both versions, both strains. One out-competes the other, and I don't know how that works. Is there a big war going on? I don't know how that works. But so you can't make this stuff up. It keeps my job interesting. So far, it hasn't hit yet. We've had a few cases of the flu, but nobody hospitalized yet here in Cedar. So hopefully it doesn't hit right at Christmas, but I'm predicting it'll be after Christmas. So if you haven't had your flu shot, go in and get it. That'd be great. Other questions? Or
No. We just appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the chance to be doing public health here in this area and your health officer. It's wonderful to work with you.
Thanks so much. Well, this is the greatest country on earth, a lot because of our health care and you folks that keep the diseases at bay. We appreciate it very much.
Well, thank you.
I got my flu shot, and I recommend everybody in Iron County to get your flu shot.
Well, good. Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate that. Make my job easier. That's good.
Thanks, Doctor.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Hey, we will take a short break and reconvene about 10 o'clock.
I had stomach flu last week. Let's do that so you can get out of here.
You heard from Reed about us going through the carpet in our building and the remodel?
Yeah.
So we had to do a lot of things that were again on our desk.
I know you will. Do you have a copy of Commissioner Cousins? Your report? Leave that for him. Lock, so he's got it. He probably gets what, yeah.
was the big flu shots,
And there's a possibility that PCI, Russell Lee,
polio.
I know people, just older that had it, and they're still limping. And then I had, measles, mumps, everything. None of my kids did, And
People lined up around the block to get them.
Yeah.
They haul that to you for cover material?
The dirt?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Polio's coming back too, isn't it?
Yeah. So
Then Curtis.
you almost had eradicated.
Possibility of PCI's doing something. Curtis has got to do some more work at a box up Little Creek Canyon. So he's going to be hauling some of their prep.
So we can go both ways.
Yeah, he can haul both
I don't see
ways.
why it'd be a big deal. Is what I'm going to do is
I
try
think it's
to
a
increase
win-win
that.
for the
Well, I got enough cover, but I'm going to try to hike out,
This innate
extend my permit
lack of
higher.
understanding.
Okay.
So, I mean, if nothing else, the dirt will sit there for,
Yeah.
but yeah, we can take it.
Okay.
If it's a double haul. What have you been up to?
Just trying to stay out of the way, people that really get the work done, so that they don't rub off.
Wouldn't be the same without you.
Hey. Same with all of our residents.
Good to see you. You're not planning on going to Hawaii or something for the holidays, are you?
I'd like to, but I'm not, no.
We just, in conjunction with these bonds, there's just a couple of documents that are needing signature by the commission chair, which, if it's okay, I'll just have Dorothy send them down to John Winter and coordinate.
Actually, I'm going to Virginia, though, where our daughter lives, from the 22nd, about the 2nd. Is that gonna mess it?
No,
mess you up?
that's not, because we're planning to close on the 20th, so we'll get the docs.
Give me a call and I'll run over whatever, because we might even leave on the 21st, depending on weather and so, to get to the airport.
Well, that's all working out great then, because we wanted to get that done before the holidays and certainly before 2020.
Yeah.
So we'll get the docs to John, and then he can call when he has them.
Okay.
if that works. Okay
Yeah,
for you.
perfect.
Okay.
So is Ryan going to be here, or you going to take care
I'll
of
be
this?
here today.
Okay, that's good.
He's available by phone if needed.
Got our ducks in a row.
So your daughter lives in Virginia?
Yeah, we have a daughter in Virginia, son in Texas. Each of them got 3 kids. We only have 2 grandchildren in Utah, so we travel a lot. You gotta be with your family.
Yeah, you know, we bigger guys. How much you miss your grandkids?
People say, "Oh, my grandkids drive me now." I haven't got to that point. I'll tell you that. I don't spend near enough time with them.
So what takes them to Virginia?
Her husband is a sub-administrator at George Washington University Hospital. So, trying to get here, break into IHC, but man, they're hard to break into. So thank you, Dan.
George Washington's a great facility.
Oh yeah. You know they don't have any inpatient at all though. Something like that. Until a couple of years ago.
Serious?
They don't have any inpatient.
Ready to say.
Really surprised me.
That surprised me.
I'm still learning. I don't even know what I'm doing. So
He's been in that. I used to be over all the people that work with pacemakers and so on, but back what his title is.
Well, he's probably young.
He's a little bit over 40.
Yeah.
So anyway, they want to come west, so we got our fingers crossed.
And what about Texas?
Texas, my son there, he's at physiology, works for Texas A&M at a research station in northern Texas, actually. So he didn't want to be a farmer, but he experiments for plants every day. And so he does well. I hope he can come back to Utah. There's not a lot of, big. Well, there's Utah State.
You are now.
Okay. Welcome back. We are reconvened. We have minutes of the November 25th, 2019 of the Iron County Commission. I would entertain a motion of approval.
I would move to approve the minutes. What was the date again?
November 25th.
November 25th, 2019.
Second, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes of the Iron County Commission meeting of November 25th, 2019. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Budget stuff. Yeah, there's several spots there, Commissioner.
We'll try to get them all.
Thank you.
Next item, we have a public hearing regarding amendments to the 2019 budget. I'm sure Dan will be here shortly. Anyway, Chair does declare the public hearing open. We'll first have our auditor, who is coming in the door, Mr. Dan Jessen, give an explanation, and then there will be an opportunity for the public to make any comments they would like.
Thank you, Commissioners. Before the, let me do a presentation before the public hearing. This is, just to clarify, this is an adjustment on the current 2019 budget, as it is the last chance that we'll have to adjust the budget this year. I don't have a formal presentation on a PowerPoint or anything like that, but I have had the adjustments available to the public, and I've sent a copy. I have the official gnarly version. I don't prepare a fancy one. I just print it out of the computer. What I do send to the commissioners is just the adjustments only. It's just a truncated version. Most of these are things that we've been talking about, or are housekeeping. I'll just highlight some of the larger ticket items that are more significant. Again, a lot of these are grants and things that we've been talking about a lot, and just getting them formalized in the budget. First off, we've added money for the Indigent Defense Grant, which is what was used to hire Shane Manueli. This is a 2019 portion of that grant. $30,000 there for the 2019 portion of that. We added $24,000 for legal services in the attorney's budget. That was to hire Tom Peters and take care of the back bill that had been growing for over the past 4 or 5 years. $17,000 plus a bill that we just received. Give us a little bit of wiggle room there. As we've talked a lot about, we're doing an adjustment to go ahead and add some to the overtime budget for the jail. That's $112,000. They will go over by more than that, but there will be some savings in salaries and wages due to the fact they've been understaffed. So what happens is the impact really hits overtime, yet all of the planned normal pay doesn't hit, so there's some savings there. Just kind of, again, looking at the bigger ones. Highway Patrol contract is bumped up $10,000. We dropped that to $50,000. Mike has spent a lot of hours working on that. We're going to put it back up to $100,000 next year, but this year we needed to add $10,000 to cover us for the actual shifts that have been worked. A lot of these are transfers, so I'm only getting into the ones that are the actual item that drives all of the interfund transfers. $75,000 in the road department. We had a very large ticket item that was the a transmission that had to be put in. I can't remember what piece of machinery, but it was very expensive. Put them over, and I was worried about it putting the fund over as a whole. So this was an easy item to target that we're all well aware of what happened there. It wasn't any fault. It wasn't like they mismanaged or anything there.
I believe that was a loader, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think that sounds right.
Parts aren't cheap for those
no
large pieces of equipment.
Unfortunately, it was not covered under warranty. Maria had a couple of grants, the Round 19 off-season grant and the ski grant. These are grants that were added mid-year. They are a 19-20 grant. So I put in there what we anticipate to be spent in 19. Which is $40,000 on the off season and $101,000 on the ski grant. That'll be spent on marketing. $39,000 in the 911 fund. That was just for that was just something that was missed. That's half of the FTE that was going to hit in this year that we added there, agreed to. We had a couple of adjustments in the rodeo. In the fair fund, one of them being rodeo, $14,000. We had this year was a great year for the fair. It was super well attended, but there are some of the events that because they were highly attended, it means that our expenses were higher. We also received more revenue, but of course we can't go over on expenses. So I bumped up Carnival, Demolition Derby, and PRCA Rodeo was over on all of those. In Capital Projects Fund, we had the money that we got from the Fiddler's Building, but we had no idea how much the road shed was going to cost. So I've gone ahead and put the entire amount in there, which we know will be in mid-construction as the year ends. But I have no idea exactly how many invoices are going to hit in 19 and how many are going to hit 20. So I just put the whole amount in there, and then we'll adjust next year's budget to reduce that to the remaining dollars. So that's $962,000. Again, we're still in the middle of adjusting even what that's going to cost us. But Steve referenced the construction project for the bridges in Parowan Canyon. I put the $700,000 in there for that, both on the revenue side and the expense side. And a few adjustments in ICC, DNRA, and Fund 61. Fiddler's Canyon, we did not have the budget codes for the Fiddler's Canyon project to go ahead and receive and pay out the incentive payments. So just, again, that's housekeeping, just adding that in. So nothing earth-shattering, nothing controversial, but those are the larger ones. Anything smaller than that, or if it looks like a large item I didn't talk about it, that's because it's just the transfers between funds to kind of facilitate all these things. So if there's any questions about the commission or any statements, that'd be fine. And if not, I can move out of the way for the public hearing and answer any questions the public has.
Just a quick statement: the $700,000 for the two bridges is federal funds, and the $962,000 for the road shed. We actually sold the Fiddler's Building and are putting that money into there. So just so the public understands where the money's coming from and going. So, any questions of Dan before we open it to the public?
No.
Thank you very much. Okay, the public hearing is open regarding the final amendments to the 2019 budget.
I did want to have one follow-up statement on that.
Yes,
it was
please.
A brilliant, I thought, use of the money from the Fiddlers to offset those expenses. It's been talked about a couple of times, but that building's going to kill about 4 birds with 1 stone. And it's using land that we already owned. It's using money that came from the proceeds of those things, so it's not going to cost the taxpayers in that regard a direct penny. But it will provide better services for Ryan with our fire, with our weeds, with the road department itself. It's I think it's brilliant.
Future fleet management.
And Commissioner Cousins has done a great job getting the contracting and stuff laid out for that, and so.
Yeah, and the present road shed is still got a lot of life in it, and so some of these that we've talked about will go in there. And anyway, it's just going to be a win-win. We're a growing county, and we just felt like this was a great place to put those funds. Okay, are there any that would like to come forward and give comments regarding the amendments to the 2019 budget? Seeing none, Chair declares the public hearing closed. We'll go to item 2. This is our public comment period. Anyone that would like to come forward and make comments regarding anything, any issue they have regarding the county, please come forward and state your name.
Cindy Bullock, Iron County Assessor. I just want to address the article because I received multiple copies of and there were multiple articles of the assessor in Wasatch County who made a $1 billion mistake on valuation on a house, and it was not caught until after the tax rate was set. In Iron County, both in my office and not speaking for Dan, but I do know he checks very closely. In my office, we look not at only change per district, but I look at change per individual parcel. Now, I don't look at every single 45,000 parcels, but I look at the highs and lows. So if something changes 100%, generally it's a new building. It was, there was no house there for like 19, but 2020 it would go up more than 100%, which would give an error because it's not a mathematical, you can't divide 0, blah, blah, blah. But so those are then taken out. But anything that would go up from 295,000 or 300, whatever that was, to $1 billion would be flagged, and we would check that. We do that both in spreadsheets where I sort and look at highs and lows, and then we get help from Ken and the state GIS, and we look at them on a map where pockets are highlighted by different colors. Sometimes that's easier to see than just looking at columns and columns of numbers, but I just want to give you some assurance that although I guess anything is possible, there is a very, very high possibility that that would never happen in Iron County.
Thank you very much for that explanation. The way I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, the taxpayers, or the house, the individual house, obviously they adjusted that because those people aren't going to pay $6 million.
Right.
And so the rest of the taxpayers actually got a tax break, but they're going to have to make it up, and Wasatch County is going to have to decide how they're going to do that over the next few years.
That's my understanding as well.
They'll issue a special levy, a judgment levy, to catch up the missed revenue.
So I know it was $4 million to their school district, $1 million to the county, and they said they had reserve funds, so they would be able to get through it. But
it's and our tax system is so antiquated and so confusing. I mean, even Jeff and I talked about it, and we argued last night. Well, they just shouldn't spend that money. Why is this? And I said they're not spending the money. That's not even giving it. That's just getting the same money they got last year, and they're in the middle of building this school, I believe, in Wasatch. I mean, I don't know exactly what's happening specifically in Wasatch County, but it's not like they got this big windfall that now they're spending all the money. That's just to guarantee the same amount of money that they had budgeted for the previous year. But it is very confusing, so you may get calls from taxpayers, and without getting into the whole how the tax rate's set and all that, just please at least assure them that we have methods in place to make sure that that doesn't happen in Iron County.
Thank you. That's comforting. Now, the only way public entities increase their revenue is through new growth or a tax increase. All public entities are guaranteed the same amount they got in the previous year. So,
tax increase can only occur through truth in taxation.
Exactly. Yeah.
Bigger process than just saying we're going to increase it.
Yeah, exactly. No public entity increases your taxes without public hearings. And anyway, we're grateful that we haven't had to do any such thing for a long, long time. Is there anyone else that would like to make comments from the public? Okay. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment period. Item 3, Resolution 2019-12, adopting 2019 budget amendments. So we've already received the report any questions or? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
I would move for approval of Resolution 2019-12, adopting the 2019 budget amendments as described by Mr. Jessen.
Second, it's moved and seconded that we approve Resolution 2019-12, adopting the 2019 budget amendments. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item number 4, Resolution 2019-13, adopting the 2020 final budget. We will have Dan Jessen, our auditor, come forth and present that, and then we'll vote on it.
So this was the budget that we that I presented with my PowerPoint last week. This is the actual copy of it in its final form, which I emailed to you guys also. We'll put a copy on our website, and I will send a kind of a uglier version to the state. They have things they like to see on there, which I think it makes it look a little bit more little bit more busy and a little more junky as far as you're trying to figure out what's going on. But I'll send a copy up to the state after this is approved today. I don't know if there's any questions on it. Nothing has changed since what was presented last week.
I shouldn't have said you would come forward to present, just
Sure.
You've already did that, yes. But anyway, good to have you come up and just make a short explanation. So, are there any questions?
I know that Lieutenant Slosser had something.
Oh, sorry, too late. No, come forward. Just kidding.
I'll make it quick. First of all, I want to thank you for taking the time to look over all the requests for the county budget. I know that's a big undertaking, and appreciate what you've provided to the Sheriff's Office. Just an update, the part-time secretary position that was approved, we are moving forward on a hire there. However, on Wednesday of last week, I was at a meeting with the Bureau of Criminal Identification, and House Bill 478 was brought up. That was not presented as a conflict or an issue with law enforcement. It was brought up in the very first meeting in committee. They said there was no impact to local agencies. However, there is. And just a heads up on that one, we are responsible to enter felony warrants, all felony warrants within our jurisdiction, within the Sheriff's Office jurisdiction, and then validate those through what's called NCIC, National Crime Information Center. That is going to be an undertaking for us. And so I appreciate that part-time secretary. So part of her duties may include those hour-long entry sides of that. So I know that we've talked about the fingerprint side with that. There may be some lag at the beginning of that. Just want to give you a heads up as that comes about.
So is that entered as it happened, or monthly, or how does it?
So BCI is going to do what they call batch entries. They're going to take the basic information that come from the court, but then we still have to run all the criminal histories. We have to get notification from the county attorney's office, how far of extradition they'll allow, if it's just in-state only, but there is that mandate from the state legislature to enter all of those warrants. So yeah.
That's an undertaking.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a undertaking.
Yeah. Currently, with what is sent to us from the county attorney's office on extradition side, start to finish, if the person doesn't have a long criminal history, meaning like 4 or 5 pages of history, that takes us about an hour and a half to complete, start to finish. Those that are, 17 to 32 pages long take a lot longer.
And the state was doing this, and so this is an unfunded mandate.
So that bill asked that BCI enter that, but we, under NCIC rules, have to hold that record because we're the holder of that record. So that falls back to us. I don't think that they saw that as they wrote the bill. I think it's something that they didn't realize the unknown consequences of that bill. So
there's more written information on that, will you? We need to talk to our legislators about that. They need to get that tweaked. That's ridiculous. Wow.
Absolutely. I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, resolution 2019-13. I would entertain a motion adopting the 2020 budget.
I'd move to approve resolution 2019-13, adopting the 2020 final budget.
Second, it's been moved and seconded that we adopt resolution 2019-13, adopting the 2020. I can't believe it's been 20 years since. Go ahead.
Say something.
Go right ahead.
I think I can have discussion on the motion.
Sure.
So this is kind of a stretch in budget, but I'm going to bring it up as budget because I missed it in the other. I thought we were having another meeting before the end of the year, but there was also a bill that was passed last year, SB 13, which is actually an income tax budget or income tax item, but it talks about domicile and primary residence in the state of Utah, and they are, or that bill, I have a meeting with Mike this afternoon to go through with that and see how it goes with our county ordinance, but the short version is that bill now has required the assessors in every county, unless you've already had an ordinance in place, so we may be able to opt out of this requirement, but the bill says that the assessor in every county will notify and request application from everyone in their county whose situs address does not match their mailing address. So that includes all the post office boxes in the county, and they've been pretty aggressively going after income tax for residences that are claiming Utah as their residence but say work in Nevada and get income in Nevada but don't pay Utah income tax on their, for example, Nevada income. But they're using property tax as a way to go after that. So if you're claiming the primary residential exemption in Utah, then they are saying that is asserting then that that's your primary, so we want your income tax. All that makes perfect sense, except I get about a 40% return rate, if that, on anything I send from my office. So if I send something to your parents, Mike, and they say, nothing's changed, I don't need to do anything, and throw that away, I'm supposed to change that to a secondary residence. And there is no appeal provision. So then, for 1 year, your parents lose their primary exemption, so it then, in essence, doubles their taxes. And if they were eligible for and got some of those taxes paid by the circuit breaker or some of those other exemptions, even a veteran's exemption, they're no longer eligible for that because it has to be a primary residence. If they have a mortgage, their mortgage now goes up significantly because they have to put that much money into their escrow account. If you're close to that limit, now you also have to pay PMI on that because the banks want to make sure that your mortgage insurance is taken care of. So
PMI is not.
It's personal mortgage insurance. So it's only if, anyway, I know acronyms, but there are a number of issues. It's also, the reason I can do it in budget is then now if we decide that we cannot take that exception and we have to send this, it's going to be pretty expensive to go after, not to go after, but to make sure that these people get this and get back to it, because the consequences are so extreme. We can't just send a letter and say, oh, well, if they don't send it back, too bad. We're going to need to do multiple follow-ups and really get the word out. So I just need to make you, and that initial letter, they have 30 days to respond, and then every change, it doesn't specifically say the title company, but we're hoping we can get the title companies to help us. But every time title changes, they have 5 days to fill in this declaration. So some of that doesn't even, I mean, the requirements of what they, you know, if they have a driver's license, if it doesn't match, sometimes you close and you're still trying to finish things up in the house that you're moving out of, and you don't change your address and your driver's license and your voter registration and everything right away. So I just want to make you aware of that, and there may be some budget consequences if we do, in fact, need to go after them. We were at meetings most of last week with the tax commission, and I think because we have had an ordinance in place and have been adhering to that ordinance for 5 years, we don't have to, but I just need to make you aware and remind people if they get stuff from my office, please don't throw it away.
That's shocking that it's only 40% return. I didn't realize that.
It's bad. Well, the part of the problem, because we're a non-disclosure state, the state sends a survey that says, what did you pay for your house? And realtors oftentimes tell their clients, oh, you don't need to respond to that, which technically you don't, but sometimes that gets lost into, oh, I don't need to respond to anything that comes from the assessor's office. So we get, 40 if we're lucky. It's a really, really, really low return rate because people, you know, you want to protect your privacy, and people don't like taxes, and so they assume that it's none of my business what you do. I mean, I've maybe heard a number of people in this room say those exact, you know, it's not really the assessor's business, which it's fine. It's not. It's a non-disclosure state, but sometimes those consequences are more dire, and we really aren't just out to get you. It breaks my heart thinking what might happen if people don't respond to this, because right now there are, and they can come to you as commissioners and you can abate taxes, but then that steps out of that rate setting process, and we won't have as bad a problem as they do in Wasatch County, but it could make some
be a problem. So when I get those, I feel like I've got to do it. I have to return them. I don't want to, but I know I have to. So anyway, well, thank you very much for that explanation. Okay, resolution, it's been moved and seconded that we adopt resolution 2019-13, adopting the 2020 final budget. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
That seems like a short process for all that work.
I know.
It's like anticlimactic.
We do appreciate our auditor very much, and the commission puts a lot of time in, and the department heads, we appreciate it very much. It's always quite a deal to, an ordeal to kick out a budget, but it's so important that we have that, obviously. Okay, there's that. Item 5, Resolution 2019-14, authorizing the issuance and sale of $5,430,000 in revenue bonds of the county under the Utah Industrial Facilities Development Act for the benefit of the Dixie and Ann Levitt Family Foundation, authorizing the execution and delivery of an indenture of trust, a loan agreement, and other documents necessary for the issuance of the bonds, and providing for related matters. Alan Jones is actually here instead of in place of Ryan Berkey.
Good morning. I'm here.
Morning. Welcome.
As a trustee of the Levitt Foundation. As you recall from our prior agenda items with this same proposed bond issuance, these are bonds that are industrial revenue bonds, are non-recourse to the county, meaning that the Levitt Foundation is exclusively liable for payment of the bonds. We had originally proposed up to $9 million in bonds. The reason that number is at $5.43 million, that's the actual bond request number. The reason that has gone down is because the appraisal on the apartment building came in lower than we had anticipated. So that explains the reduction to that $5.43 million number. Commission has had the public hearing on this item, and so we're now here having received the appraisal with that final number.
Okay, very good. Again, this has the county has no liability, and it doesn't reduce our ability to bond, but it helps out this situation for this building, that the Levitt are building to help with the housing situation at SUU. Is that all correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Just a question for Alan. So these documents that I have, they're ready.
That's my understanding. Those came from Ryan Bjerke's office in Salt Lake.
Okay. All right, Commissioner, you and I are going to become good friends.
Okay, yeah. Commissioner Blake's got to do some heavy cooking this afternoon, so I'll sign those after meeting.
Okay, okay.
And we got to get him out of here in good time. Anyway, I would entertain a motion on the resolution 2019-14.
I would move for approval of resolution 2019-14 as previously described.
Second, it's been moved and seconded that we approve resolution 2019-14 as described. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, Alan. Appreciate it. Item 6, well, we haven't got Shane here yet. Manueli,
He's going to come.
isn't he? So
Yeah, he mentioned to our office that he wasn't able to make it.
did we get those? But he just wants.
I've got the contracts here.
Okay. Would you just read off those?
Yeah.
They should be the same as we budgeted for, and that was to bring everybody to the same amount.
Well, that's right. I remember that.
The way
Okay.
that they end up reading.
That's
I don't know
correct.
what the amount is, but
80, 84, 85, something like that per person. Well, okay.
No, it wasn't. You're right.
Occasionally, my memory's good.
90 was the grant. That's what I had that
Oh.
number in mind. 85.
Okay.
If they all say 85 on page 5, section 171. And that should be what that's what we-
Okay, so this is, we have to pay the public defenders, and this is their contract. Now, how many have we got up this year now? Is it all?
1, 2, 3, 4.
2 of the 4, the 2 juveniles, and then so there should be 4 total.
There are 4
And-
total.
And then 2
Each one
for
is
the.
85,000.
And some of them are 2-year contracts on the juveniles, and the others are 1-year contracts.
Okay.
Okay, okay.
Does it differentiate which ones are which?
Should have the name.
Do you know off the top of your head which ones? You've got James Park, Jeff Slack, Candace Reed.
Those 2 were at 1 years, and then Candace Reed and
Troy Sunquist.
Troy
So-
Sunquist, yeah.
Park
Huh?
and Candace were on 2 years.
Yeah.
Troy Sunquist,
Jeff Slack.
Jeff Slack were on 1 year.
Yeah.
All right. So Sunquist and Slack are the juvenile?
No.
Oh, they're
round.
no. Yeah.
Okay.
Jeff and Troy are adult. Candace and the Park firm are juvenile.
And a 1 year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and these are all for
This is 85,000.
85,000 per year on these contracts. Okay, is there any other discussion or questions regarding these? I would entertain a motion.
I would approve the public defender contracts with the new rates for 2020. Those new rates being $85,000 per year to those 4. Do I need to say names or?
Always state the names.
Okay.
No, go ahead and read
the
4 distinct contracts. So
there's 4 distinct contracts for $85,000 apiece to be awarded to Troy Sunquist, Jeff Slack, Candace Reed, and the Park firm in the amount of $85,000.
Second, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the public defender contracts with new rates for 2020 as explained in the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, we'll now leave County Commission and convene as the Board of Equalization. We have Christine Louder here from the Auditor's Office. Good morning, Christine.
Good morning.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't read the item number 7. Review and approve low-income and homeowners tax credit abatement applications and veterans abatement applications, which were received between October 14th, 2019, and December 2nd, 2019. Thank you.
Okay, these are, this is to approve a number of applications that came in after we met on October 14th. And there was I think there was a few veterans adjustments. Veterans adjustments are due to their percentages being increased, which is used to base the amount that they're awarded on. So the paper I've given you, let's see, I'm looking at the wrong side. It's two-sided. One side is 2019 totals, the other side is 2018 totals. The numbers from this year to last year's actually 101 additional individuals. That would be new individuals that have come on, minus the individuals that have either moved, passed away, or don't qualify any longer. The amount off to the right-hand side, the $197,761.88, will be refunded to the county by the State Tax Commission. That money has been requested, so we should have it in the next couple of weeks. That is for their portion of the circuit breaker. Those are also highlighted there. The majority of it is for the regular circuit breakers. The 1,150.10 was for mobile homes, for individuals that qualify there.
Right.
So do you have any questions on any of it? I might add, veterans can still apply for the abatement. It basically doesn't close for them. Anybody else, it has passed unless they come in and request through the commission directly. So I know I'll have one coming up because I just got the application this morning. So for a veteran. So anyway.
All right. Thank you for that explanation. Are there any other discussion? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
I would move for approval of low-income and homeowners tax credit abatement applications and veterans abatement applications, which were received between October 14th, 2019 and December 2nd, 2019.
Second. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the low-income and homeowners tax credit abatement applications and veterans as explained in the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
See the line. That's my fault.
Thank you again. We will now leave the Board of Equalization and reconvene as the Iron County Commission and go to item number 8, personnel. Good morning, Betsy.
Good morning. The first item we have on the agenda this morning is for the Assessor's Office. Approval of new hire Jessica Huntington as full-time Deputy Assessor Clerical with the effective date of December 2nd, 2019, and this is a backfill of a vacant position.
I think we can do all these in one motion.
I think so, yeah.
Next item is for the Human Resource Department. We have the request for approval of new hire Jennifer Bradbury as the Human Resource Director. Oh, I'm stuttering. Effective December 16th, 2019, and this is a backfill of a vacant position. Next is for the Justice Court. We have approval of new hire Carla Pearson as full-time Justice Court Clerk, effective December 15th, 2019, and this is a backfill as well. Just
For the record, Carla Pearson was on a roster from the last competitive process. When they received their last resignation, they requested that Carla fill that position without posting.
Excellent.
The last item we have is for the Sheriff's Office. Approval of new hire Kathleen Brown as part-time secretary effective December 30th, 2019. And this will be to fill the newly approved part-time secretary position for the 2020 budget year. Kathleen Brown was also pulled from the last recruitment process.
Okay.
And
those are so good to have those people lined up. So.
And that's all we have.
Okay, thanks very much. Any discussion on any of those? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
We'll move for approval of, in the assessor's office, new hire Jessica Huntington as a full-time deputy assessor clerical effective 12/2 of 2019, and note that it is a backfill of a vacant position. In human resources, approval of new hire Jennifer Bradbury as human resources director effective 12/16 of 2019, and note that that is a backfill position. In the justice court, approval of new hire Carla Pearson as full-time justice court clerk effective 12/15 of 2019, which is a backfill. And in the sheriff's office, approval of new hire Kathleen Brown as part-time secretary effective 12/30 2019, and that is to fill a newly approved position during the 2020 budget year.
Second, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the new hire, 4 new hires as stated in the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. You have. Okay. Oops. I used to have finger dexterity back in my youth. Thank you very much. We have 2 non-delegated items as usual. Is there any discussion on any of those? Oh no! About something with
I've
the
just
county.
been waiting for that
Something with
opportunity
county boards,
to
right?
make your day.
It's a minor issue about a county board, right?
You only wish. I just hate to bring this up, but
Okay,
you're
well then
aware.
don't. No,
Just brief
year.
discussion on the letter that you received from the Beaver County Commissioners. You recall that they are opposed to the county exploring the relocation of prairie dogs up on the Bald Hills area because of its proximity to the Beaver County line. And they expressed that. I'm going to a meeting at noon today, and probably the rest of the afternoon on prairie dog regarding with Fish and Wildlife Service and their interest in BLM in establishing those sites. And I just wanted to get your feelings on how we move forward with that request from BLM and Fish and Wildlife Service and DWR to look at those sites as possible sites and try to still enter into discussion with commissioners. And I haven't had a chance to visit with you about that since that letter was sent, so I just wanted to see whether you felt like you wanted to support that position or whether you felt like we could still explore that and bring something to the county commissioners there to show offset for mitigation and show what could actually be done to try to help mitigate any impacts that they may feel that they would receive.
That's not an easy answer. Prairie dog fence on the county line.
If you're familiar with the property, and as mentioned previously, there's a lot of rugged terrain between where this property is and what they would impact going into the county. And Fish and Wildlife recognizes that even if dogs were there because of the general conservation plan and the ability that they have right now to regulate and remove dogs from sites that are unwanted when they establish an area, similar to what we did with the Second Mound property of the Williams and properties that we can mitigate around when dogs move into undesirable areas once a base count has been established. There are regulations that they can put into place to help mitigate that. I think that the Beaver County Commission has just said flat out, just it's so simple to say, no, we don't want them, but it isn't even in their county, and it really won't have an adverse impact on them moving into the areas that they expect them to move into, and even if they do, they can be removed. And so I think it was a pretty general statement that they made, and I would hope that our commission in the county could still explore that and at least identify what mitigation could occur so that things could be offset. There were possibilities of doing some water development for their cows so they didn't have to haul. A lot of things that I think some of the grazers would actually find desirable where the properties are, let alone just a blanket statement to say, you know, this is just going to be adverse. We don't want potential of anything possibly happening.
Yeah, the water hauling would be or eliminate the water hauling would be a big plus, big mitigating circumstance. So we went there on that field trip a year and a half ago, whenever it was, and there was all that area. I guess it had burned. It was really nice grazing area. But was that all in Beaver County?
No, that's all in Iron County.
So just
everything we saw was in Iron County.
Just that far above Greenville is Iron. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I was thinking. Okay, it's been a while.
What they call the Bald Hills Road. There's the main road off of the south side of the summit that goes in off of the Minersville Highway that goes and crosses across the top there. It's that area, and they're clear over to Little Valleys that overlooks I-15. There's about 3 or 4 sites in there that BLM has identified, and have talked to the grazers themselves. Aren't opposed to it. It's just, you know, kind of a blanket position of the county commission.
Yeah. And I looked at this, and I kind of felt the same way. I felt that it was a blanket. You know, we just don't want them, so we're going to say no. But I think the benefit of working with the BLM and the Federal Fish and Wildlife, I mean, I think that's really important. Plus, I agree that, I mean, we have a great relationship with Beaver County, and I think if there's individual issues that come up as we go, I don't see any problem in working that out. And, you know, the mitigation end of it turned out really good with the, what's their name's property between here and Summit. And I mean, I think there's solutions in place that I think we need to move forward with it.
Okay. Well, at least to continue to explore and not just say, no, we agree with them, we're going to shut down any exploration. We continue discussion and make proposals and see if we can't continue to work something out.
Exactly.
And that's all I'm asking for.
I would agree with the continued discussion also. And I think it would be really good if we could explore some monies to do some water development. That would really be a win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
A huge win-win. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Good.
That was fairly painless as far as prairie dogs go.
I apologize. Apologize for any off-the-cuff comments I made regarding prairie dogs. Yeah. Thanks. Okay, anything on county boards? Okay, Chair declares this meeting adjourned. Thank you all. Have a Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. And we'll see you here again on the second Monday in January.
That's right. Yay.